Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down District 4 activities week in, week out. My name is Brandon Baney, and today we are joined by Dolly the sheep.
That's all I got.
That's going to be in my nightmares now. You bawling like a sheep. Oh, man.
God, no kidding.
Yeah.
What's going on, Brandon?
Yo, what's up? Scott Burton, those of you listening audio only, he likes to come on with a different alias moniker every week. If you're watching the video on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, you'll see it right there. Dolly the sheep. All right, Burton, what's the story this week?
Oh, my word. I just felt a cloning reference was appropriate this week. I'm supposed to be in 3 different places tonight. And so I'm trying to juggle all of that and get 2 things organized and arranged, and then try to get to the 3rd. So you remember the Michael Keaton movie Multiplicity, where he cloned himself, I think 4 times, and each one of them got dumber as they went along. By the time the 4th clone, it was Doug was almost like a Scuba Steve, you know. That's kind of how I feel. So I'm supposed to be, we have wrestling in Jerome tonight against Minico. It's our senior night. And we make a big deal out of that because it's in the auditorium and we do it on the stage. And so this afternoon, we're going to bring in all the wrestling mats and set the stage up. You know, people come into the auditorium and they're going to watch wrestling on the auditorium stage. It's kind of a cool thing we do with our wrestlers. So I'm supposed to be at that, supposed to announce for that. And then we've got the 1A D1 game happening tonight, that second berth to state between Cary and Raft River, which we'll talk about here shortly. That's happening at Jerome, and I'm supposed to announce for that as well. But our girls basketball team kind of threw a wrench in all of that when they upset Twin, and now we're playing for the district title game, district championship in Minico tonight. So it's like, those are the 3 things. And so I needed like 3 of me to do all these things. So there's Dolly for you.
So we talked when we had Sean, the Twin Falls athletic director, on a couple weeks ago, and talking about how he had been gone a lot because of what is going on with his daughter, Harper. And he said, you know, I've got a great team of admins around me that I've really leaned on. I assume it's the same at Jerome, right? You can't be in 3 places at once, and you've got other people in your building that are going to help out.
Yeah, you know, my athletic assistant secretary, Ann Newbury, is just absolutely amazing. We all know who runs the show around here. It ain't me. So, but no, she's helping out a little bit too tonight here at the school. But yeah, I mean, she's my right hand person, and man, can't do it without her. So, yeah, she's my clone.
It's a good one for sure. And speaking of clones, Jerome is hoping to clone their performance on the basketball court after they went to Twin Falls last week and knocked off the Bruins in a nail biter. They will be going to Minico tonight for the district championship game. We're recording this on Thursday, February 9th. I will be there tonight, Scott, broadcasting that game for IdahoSports.com. So you and I are going to be in the same building.
Yes, we are. And I'll come up and razz you a little bit. Should be a lot of fun. I got an email from your fellow broadcaster tonight, getting some information from us. So told him I'd be there and like come up and visit with you for a bit. So it should be fun. Yeah. So that game is going to be wild. That gym in Minico is not a big one, and I know that Brady over there is really pushing. Well, I think he's letting his students in for free if they show up at the game. And so I'm loading up a bus and I'm taking a bunch of students over there as well. So hopefully we can get that gym packed, and it's a crazy atmosphere. It always is in Minico. So that'll be a ton of fun.
Yeah, over in the red zone, as they like to call it, or the Minico red and gold play. And, we've been there for quite a few Minico boys basketball games on IdahoSports.com over the past couple of weeks. And without a doubt, front row of the student section always is CJ Lotta and the rest of the Minico girls. So I fully expect to see Brevin Tranquil and all of the guys supporting tonight on the ladies side. So we're going to go through every district tournament that's going on in the Magic Valley. Some teams have already clinched their bids to state, won their districts. It's all wrapped up. Some will be decided tonight and maybe even on Saturday with some play-in game type scenarios.
Yeah, kind of where we get to see how we did on our bracketology.
Yeah, that's right. The rubber meets the road. So if you're watching this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, I'm going to share my screen so we're able to see the brackets and you can follow along that way. If you're listening audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, no worries. We have all of the district brackets on the homepage at IdahoSports.com right at the top. You can't miss it. Just click on that and you can follow along that way. So here is the Great Basin Conference District Tournament, the 4A District 4 girls. In the semifinals last Friday, Minico defeats Mountain Home 65-43 and pretty much was in control start to finish. Jerome goes to Twin, the 3 versus the 2, and Jerome gets the road knockout 40-38 the final. Scott, this game came down to the final 2 minutes. I mean, it was a thrilling finish where you had wild swings in momentum. Jerome's whistled for an offensive foul, but they get the ball back, and then Autumn Allen comes away with not one but 2 really big steals down the stretch, and Jerome makes some free throws. Twin Falls had the ball with about 10 seconds left and never even got a shot off. Time expired before they could even attempt a game-tying or game-winning shot.
Yeah, that was really uncharacteristic of Twin, not to get a shot off, but worked in our favor. And you're right, that game was a grind. I was there, and our girls played exceptionally well. They took care of the basketball a little bit better than they normally do, because that is their, I think, Achilles heel, is they just turn the ball over too much. But they took care of the basketball and they rebounded well. So they played a really good game. And, Twin and Minico now, or Twin and Mountain Home rather, they play tonight. And again, that's going to be another battle, because right now you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds that are still alive. So everything kind of sort of went chalk in a way, except for, it's 1 and 3 playing for the title. But we kind of figured it was a 4-team race anyway, and you could kind of flip a coin and all of that. But, Jerome is the only team to have beaten Minico this year in the conference. And that came back in January, when January 4th, somewhere in there, or 18th rather, 51-50 in a thriller at Jerome. So, that environment tonight's going to be rocking. And then the loser of tonight's game will host a game Saturday night against the winner of Twin Falls and Mountain Home for that second berth to state. So there will either be a game at Minico Saturday or a game at Jerome on Saturday. So we'll see what happens. But this conference is shaping up kind of like we thought it would.
Yeah, in that 3rd, 4th place game tonight, I'm kind of leaning Mountain Home a little bit. And I'll tell you why. Yes, they have to travel to Twin Falls, but Mountain Home, because the way the Great Basin Conference works, whoever the higher seeded semifinal loser is kind of gets a bye, which helps. But that means Mountain Home had to play Canyon Ridge on Tuesday night, and they got to win by 20 points, 52-32. I think that's allowed them to kind of put the semifinal loss behind them, get refocused, and they're in do or die mode now. Whereas Twin Falls has had nearly an entire week to stew and marinate on a game that they had, and it slipped through their fingers. And so you always wonder mentally, how does Twin come out and handle that? Whereas Mountain Home already kind of got that out of the way, and they're locked and loaded.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And this is where experience comes in as far as being a head coach, right? Mike Amaya over at Twin, I mean, he has been here, done that before, but he's got to find a way to do exactly what you said, reframe the mindset of his girls, because the last time they stepped on their floor, they got beat. And so that has to get purged out of their minds, or they could suffer that hangover that we see so many times. So I mean, that's a good point. It'd be interesting to see what happens, but nonetheless, that's going to be a really good game in Twin Falls tonight. That tip-off is scheduled for, it's an early one at 6.
Yeah. Mountain Home's got to travel a little distance, so I'm sure they want to get them out as quickly as they can. And then, I think whoever loses that Minico Jerome game is going to be in for one heck of a fight. in that, like I could easily see Twin or Mountain getting that second bid to state.
I can
coming in through the back door. So
I can see any of these four teams. The only thing that would surprise me with these four teams is if Minico didn't go.
Right.
One way or another, Minico didn't go. That would be the only surprise. Other than that, my goodness, it could be anybody of those remaining three. So, welcome to the Great Basin.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that on the boys' side in just a little bit. So we've got Minico Jerome tonight on IdahoSports.com at 6:30. We're also going to be broadcasting tonight the 1A D1 District Championship game. And that is not the championship, but we're going to be broadcasting the second and third place game. We did the championship on Tuesday night. Oakley and Raft River. Who would have guessed? This
shocker.
Yeah. Those two met for the championship Tuesday night at the College of Southern Idaho. Oakley won a low scoring game, 31-26. So Oakley back to state. Congratulations to Coach Matt Payton and the Hornets. And now you've got Raft River and Cary meeting tonight at Jerome, 7:00 for that second and final bid to state. Cary has had an interesting journey. All of their games have been fairly close. They just barely got past Lighthouse in the opening round by 2. We talked about that. They had to beat Lighthouse in overtime in the fourth place game, 46-39. And even Shoshone, Tim Chapman in his final game as Shoshone coach gave Cary all they could handle and then some. Cary only won 44-37. So the Panthers have been in all of these tight nail biter type games, but so is Raft River. They beat Murtaugh by 1 point in the semis. They lose by 5 to Oakley in the championship. So both of these teams are battle tested and ready to go. It should be a great game tonight on IdahoSports.com.
Yeah, no, it should. And you look at these teams, and first of all, I mean, man, what a effort by Lighthouse to kind of battle their way to where they did, knocking off number 3 Murtaugh. And I don't think anybody really saw that one coming, because this was supposed to be Oakley, Raft River, and Murtaugh battling for those 2 spots. But, Lighthouse kind of made a mess of things when they upset Murtaugh, but that opened the door for Cary a little bit more. And Cary is an interesting team too, because they had a kind of a big setback in that game against Oakley when they had one of their players go down with some health issues, and it was a scary sight there for a little while for Cary during that game. It happened at halftime, and Cary came out of the locker room. And then this is against Oakley, where they lost 49-33, but they were getting pretty much dominated in that first half. And then they had one of their players in the locker room kind of collapse, and there was a huge health scare. And Cary was an eyelash away from not continuing that game. And I was there. And so we're trying to figure out what to do if Cary decides they can't really regroup and get it together. But they did. We gave them some time. They got their composure back and said, we're going to come out and play without their other player. And they came out and they had a really valiant effort in that second half. They were just a re-energized team. They were playing with a lot of emotion, obviously. And so I think, Cary's one of those teams that is playing with a lot of emotion right now. And that is carrying them into this game against Raft River, where, Cary and Raft River, they have battled just once already, and Raft River won that one 42-39. And so this is a different Cary team. They're, like I said, they're playing with a lot of emotion, and they're one game away from getting to state.
Is the player from Cary okay?
Yeah. So, they took her to the hospital, and by the end of the game that Cary was playing with Oakley, they got word that she had her vitals were good, and everything was coming back around. I don't know if there's been any residuals as far as like holding her out or whatever the case has been. But it was good news by the end of the night. And so, it was a really bizarre night for sure.
Yeah, certainly we're thinking about everybody at Cary, and yeah, you're right. They only lost by 3. The one time they played Rat River this year, I'll guarantee you 2 things: it's going to be low scoring, it's going to be a tight game.
Yeah.
Pretty much bank on that. And can we talk real quick about Murtaugh as well at this tournament? You feel so bad for the Red Devils. They lose to Raft River by 1, 54-53. Turn around and lose to Lighthouse by 1, 45-44. This is a team that has had its chances all year long in these really tight games, and luck wasn't on their side this year.
No, and it's unfortunate too, because that was a pretty good team. It was a very lengthy, tall team that those kind of teams are wild cards, because they could go very deep into a tournament, just because Murtaugh, they play a lot of zone, they've got length, but they just couldn't get enough bounces to go their way. And when Lighthouse knocked them out, Lighthouse just kind of caught fire from the outside. And when that's happening, boy, that's a tough thing to stop, because Lighthouse started firing offensively on all cylinders, and got out of there with a 1-point win, 45-44, and then gave Cary everything they can handle before losing in overtime.
Yeah, Jordan Wolverton for Lighthouse has had an outstanding tournament. Mm-hmm. She's been really fun to watch there. The other district championship game that's going on tonight, Scott, is at the 1A D2 level, where you've got Dietrich and Richfield, the rematch. This will be at Gooding High School tonight at 7:00. They met in the undefeated semifinal a week ago, and Dietrich won in a tight one, 36-32. Now, Dietrich has beaten Richfield 3 times this year. Can they do it for a 4th, or can Richfield force the winner-take-all, if necessary, game Saturday night in Gooding?
This one's interesting too, because Dietrich is 3-0 this year against Richfield. The first one back in January was January 12th, 38-20 in favor of Dietrich. And then after that, it's just been down to the wire. The next one was a 25-23 win by Dietrich. And then the third one was, like you just mentioned, 36-32. So now what you're asking Dietrich to do is beat a very good Richfield team for the 4th time this season. And that is tough. And Richfield is probably sick and tired of losing to Dietrich, especially close games. So, another classic Tobacco Road Dietrich and Richfield battle this time around to get to state.
And 2 veteran coaches, Buck Hendren for Richfield, Rick Estelle for Dietrich. The X's and O's battle between those two is going to be fascinating to watch tonight. Shout out to Camas County as well, the 4 seed. They knocked out Hagerman in the loser-out game and got to play Richfield in that 2nd and 3rd place game for a Camas team that was very low on numbers this year. Brianna Ashmead played really well for the Mushers over the past couple of games. And so it was nice to see Camas, finish in the top 3 after going through a tough regular season with low numbers. So shout outs to Camas County there as well. And then the other 2 district tournaments, Scott, are pretty much concluded. It's all wrapped up. If we look at the 3A District 4 tournament, that district championship game was last night. We had it on IdahoSports.com. Really wasn't close. Filer beat Buhl 63-23. Both teams advanced to state regardless of the outcome. The big story was in that 2nd and 3rd place game on Monday night, Scott, Buhl knocked out Kimberly by 3, 48-45. It came on a late 3. And despite the size that Kimberly has underneath, Buhl was able to hang with them and got the win.
Yeah, that was the surprise of all the tournaments, I think. You kind of factor in that Murtaugh loss. If you're going all brackets, this one is right up there with it, because I don't think anybody really gave Buhl a chance. We knew that, Buhl was heading in the right direction behind Coach Montgomery or, Coach Twos, and they were doing the right things. They were young. We just kind of figured that maybe they were a year out of getting where they needed to be, but I'll be danged. They had Kimberly's number, because they had, they've played Kimberly a couple of times already in the season. And the first time around they lost, by 17. The second time around they beat them 45-39. And then the next time they got absolutely throttled 48-18 before winning 48-45. So there really was, I mean, who knew what was going to happen? I mean, we might win, we might lose by 30, who knows? But they won the one that counted. And a surprise, Kimberly is not going to state.
In the finance world, the Buhl girls basketball team is what we would call a volatile stock. It is just all over the place.
It
yes,
was.
We talked about. I personally said I thought Buhl was a year away, and yet one of three seniors on this team, Megan Montgomery, has really put the team on her back. She was the one that hit that late three to give Buhl the win over Kimberly. And so now both teams go to state. Buhl's pretty much locked in as the number 8 seed overall.
Right.
And Filer is going to be a bottom half seed as well. But to me, the 3A tournament is pretty open. There's not one team you can point to and say, yeah, this is the favorite. I mean, Snake River's good. Sugar Salem, of course, is always good. But Timberlake obviously is good from the north. But I think the Magic Valley teams have a chance to maybe open some eyebrows at state.
Yeah, I mean, Filer certainly does. They've got they've got the experience, and we'll see what happens there. Buhl, you just hope puts up a good show, because they will go in as a number 8, and hopefully not just happy to be there, but battles a lot too. So yeah, this 3A tournament will be kind of interesting as well. Looking at trying to find the standings in girls basketball. I mean, yeah, you do have Snake River and Parma leading the way, at 18-3. And so those are the two that are getting the most votes for, the number one, or beg your pardon. Gosh dang, my computer's jumping all over the place.
It's all right. That's all right.
Snake and Parma.
Yeah.
And well, you factor in Timberlake, there's some pretty good teams. The top 3 teams in the state are really kind of cruising with their records, but everybody's beatable in 3A.
Yeah, the seedings are all pretty much locked in. The top 5 seeds are already locked in. Snake River's the 1 seed, Timberlake is the 2, Parma is 3, Sugar Salem is 4, Weiser is 5. That's all locked in. So 6, 7, and 8 is all to be determined right now. We do a daily bracketology on IdahoSports.com where we kind of project the field and how it's going to look. And right now, Filer would be 7, Buhl would be 8.
Yep.
That is dependent upon Fruitland winning their play-in game. If they were to lose, then you have a chance maybe for some upward movement. But it'll be interesting to see how that 3A tournament shakes out for sure. And then in the 2A Canyon Conference, District 4, we kind of knew coming in Declo was the favorite here. It's that best of 3 game series between Declo and Wendell. I will say in the second game with Wendell's season on the line, the Trojans did give a push. They only lost by 7, 49-42, but Declo moving on to state, and they are locked in as that number 8 seed overall. Kind of a similar deal for Declo at the 2A level. They've got a tougher time right out of the gate, Scott, because they've got to play the only undefeated team that's left in Idaho girls basketball in Melba. So
yeah. Congratulations for winning your conference. Here's Melba.
Yeah.
Melba solid 21-0. And Declo, and that's the thing, sometimes you just don't get challenged in the conference and you end up paying for it. And, Declo owned Wendell 4-0 on the year, beating them handily in 3 of those 4 games. And Wendell, to their credit, did put up a fight in the end. But yeah, Declo just doesn't have that grind of a conference. And there's something to be said about that, because those are pressure-packed games when you get that grind. And we talk about the 1A D1 conference all the time. And even in the 1A D2 with Dietrich and Richfield, you are battling every single night. But Declo doesn't have that, and that does kind of hurt down the road. So, but congratulations to Declo anyway, and good luck with Melba.
Yep. We said last year at Boys State, Lake City was the number 1 seed in 5A, and they were going to roll to the title, and Centennial, the 8 seed, knocked them out. So we've seen it happen at state basketball in other instances. So go for it, Declo, and shock the world, right?
Anything can happen. You betcha.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll keep it with Declo and Wendell and transition now into boys basketball, where that Canyon Conference, it's a 3-team boys basketball conference. The Cutthroats from Sun Valley Community School are in the league, but really it's Declo and Wendell at the top. We talked about the first time that they played back in January, Scott. Wendell came in as the team with the better record, higher acclaim. You know, they were ranked higher in all the metrics. But it was Declo who said, we don't really care. And they beat Wendell 53-45. They got that 8-point win. Well, the rematch finally came last Friday, and Wendell got their revenge, but it took them 2 overtimes to do it.
Yeah.
They get the 59-50 win in double overtime. So now you've got Wendell and Declo. They both tied for the conference title, 3-1 records. Who gets the 1 seed? Kind of semantics. It's going to boil down to Wendell and Declo, I think, for the district title. And only one of these teams will get to go to state. It's going to be a fierce battle.
Yeah, that is going to be something else, because you've got 2 pretty good teams in Wendell and Declo on that boys side of things. And there are going to be some epic battles, especially coming off of that double overtime win that happened in Wendell. So yeah, that'll be a fun conference tournament as well.
Other fun conference tournaments in terms of how muddled up the standings are. The 1A, we talked all year, Scott, about the 1A D1 Snake River Conference in girls basketball and how wild and chaotic and unpredictable it was. The boys conference was equally unpredictable. Brian Hardy, the athletic director from Valley High School, and he's the tournament director for the boys district tournament. He sent me an email like two weeks ago, Scott, talking about with 2 games to go for everybody in the league, we could have a 5-way tie for first place. 5 teams had the potential to finish 7-2, which is unheard of. In the middle of all of this chaos, too, you had Shoshone, which started the year as a member of the conference. They got to January and started playing the JV teams from like Raft River and Oakley instead of the varsity, and they basically said we can't go anymore, and we're dropping out. So basically, then everybody had to go back, and the teams that had already played Shoshone in conference play, that now is a non-conference game, and there was a lot of math and tinkering involved in these standings, but they finally got it all figured out last night. Last night was the final night of regular season competition. And so here are the final standings. Castleford wins the league with an 8-1 record. Cary takes second at 7-2. And then you had a 4-way tie for third place. Murtaugh, Oakley, Lighthouse, and Valley all finished 6-3.
Wow.
Have you seen anything like that before, Scott?
Well, yes, and that'll be the next conference that we talk about. Right. You know, and conference bylaws change from conference to conference too. So, you know, what their tiebreaker scenarios are going to be might be different than what, you know, we do in the Great Basin. But I mean, typically they're the same. But yeah, this is the point where all the ADs are on conference calls with each other going, what do we do with this mess? How are we breaking the tie? Because we got to get everybody on the same page, you know, because all the coaches are going to be wondering what the criteria is going to be. Because oddly enough, coaches don't really pay attention to what the tie-breaking criteria is until it's happening to them, and now they want to know, you know, and that's happening in the other conference we're going to talk about too. But yeah, what a mess. And it's so crazy too, because, you know, what I haven't seen is the messes as, I guess, happening in as prevalent as they are. I mean, this conference is a mess. The 4A is a total junk show. You know, that's what I haven't seen is multiple messes. You get one every now and then, but man, this year is it's a total mess.
A lot of good teams out there is how I'll frame that point. So Brian went on to tell me, here's how the tiebreakers ended up working out. So Murtaugh got the 3 seed because they compared the head-to-head records between all 4 of the schools that were tied at 6-3. So Murtaugh and Oakley both went 2-1 in that group of 4, but Murtaugh beat Oakley head-to-head. So Murtaugh gets the 3, Oakley gets the 4. Lighthouse and Valley both went 1-2 amongst that group of 4, and Lighthouse beat Valley head to head. So that's why Lighthouse is the 5 and Valley is the 6. When you look at this league all year long, Scott, the 2 teams everybody's been talking about are Lighthouse and Valley, and those are your 5 and 6 seeds because of this convoluted mess. Of course, in 1A D1 basketball statewide, it's Lapway's deal, right? I mean, they're on the longest winning streak in the nation. It's now up over 55 games. But I will tell you, talking to Lapway fans, the team that they are most, and they're not afraid of anybody, but the team that they looked at and said, this team could give us some problems, was Valley. That's the perception from Lapway. So, Coach Hardy as the 6th seed, I think the seeds aren't going to matter too much in this district tournament. It's all going to be about, can you show up and get a couple of wins, because really any of those top 6 could take one of those bids to state.
Yeah, no, for sure. And in this classification in the 1A D1s, I mean, how do you not just say Lapway? You just do. But I find that interesting that Lapway thinks that Valley is the team. Unranked Valley is the team that could give them problems. I mean, that tells you that Lapway's paying attention to what's going on around the state. And because there's some decent teams in there. I mean, Lighthouse in the latest or the last coaches poll was number 3. And so this conference does get a little bit of respect because they do have some really good teams in it. But, Grace currently is the number 2 ranked team, and Lighthouse 3, Kamei 4, and Lakeside is 5. But really, when it comes to the 1A D1, it's Lapway and then everybody else, and that's what it's been forever. So maybe Valley can get in there. We'll see.
Yep, we'll see. And Lighthouse, I still like the makeup of their team, but they enter on a 3-game losing streak into districts. They've lost to Murtaugh, Oakley, and Castleford here down the stretch. So we'll see what the Lions can do at districts. All right, and then let's talk Great Basin, 4A District 4, because we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now, Scott. Nobody wants to win this league. Twin Falls is still your leader at 8-3. Jerome is 7-4. Mountain Home is 6-5. Canyon Ridge 6-6. Wood River and Minico are both 5-6. Burley at 2-9. You can pencil them into that 7th spot, but other than that, who knows?
Well, and that's the thing. There's only one thing guaranteed right now, and that is Burley's going to be the 7. Aside from that, we don't know anything. And we were on a big old conference call this morning trying to figure out the what if scenarios, and there was just too many of them. Because the other thing that we do know, it's Twin and Jerome are going to finish 1-2 for the most part. I mean, I think that we just don't know which way. Twin still has to play at Mountain Home. Now, these games are going to be Friday night, and we'll know stuff then, but I think we're going to have some tiebreakers as well, because if Twin goes to Mountain Home and wins, they will be the number 1. If Twin loses and Jerome beats Burley Friday night, then they're tied. And now we have to go to tiebreakers. But that depends on which 6-6 team is the better one. Because the 2 things that play into this is when we start going down the list of tiebreakers, Twin Falls beat Canyon Ridge twice. The others split with Canyon Ridge. Well, Jerome beat Wood River twice. The others split with Wood River. So the interesting thing is going to be, where does Wood River and Canyon Ridge finish? Because when you go to tiebreaker scenarios, you go top down and how you did against the top teams. And if Wood River, and they've got Minico, if they win, then they might, I think they vault ahead of Canyon Ridge, which makes Jerome the number 1 seed. But I don't know, dude. We gave up at about 45 minutes in, saying, you know what, let's go get a drink. We're out of here.
Let's reconvene on Friday after all of these.
Word. Yeah, no, it is. And we've never seen anything like it before in this conference. It's the parity is so bizarre that any team can beat any team on any given night from top to bottom. And, Burley, even though they're coming in at 3-17, they've lost some close games, so they're better than their record. So who knows, man? We have one game left. Canyon Ridge is done.
Yep.
They finish out at 6-6. They're done in the conference. But we don't know where they stand. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, and again, Canyon Ridge beat Burley last night in pretty convincing fashion by a final of 88-57. Final game for Samuel Lapumba. He had 33 points in that win for Canyon Ridge, and now we find out he's not eligible to compete in the district tournament. A similar thing happened at Owyhee this year on the girls' side, not because a player was granted a 5th year, but because it was a transfer dispute from another school. But how does Canyon Ridge do now without the anchor of its offense and defense? How do they navigate it? It's going to be fascinating to see.
It really is. I mean, it's a coaching nightmare knowing that your best player you're going to be without. But we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Is you play him for a couple of reasons. You play him to get him exposure because you want him to go to the next level. But you also play him to win games to get a better seed. But what you're doing is you're sacrificing the chemistry that you're going to have into the district tournament because you're going to be without him. They're going to be a completely different team in the district tournament. So there is that little, kind of side story that's going on in this tournament as well. So, and we just don't know where anybody is. And this morning, I told our ADs, let's just get, Ted Reynolds from Canyon Ridge and John Clark from Mountain Home. If they tie, let's just get them on the floor at halftime and leg wrestle, and let's get a winner that way. So that's where we're at in this conference right now.
Yeah, and you look at like what happened to Minico, right? Minico got off to such a strong start this year, and they've been in a tailspin. They have lost 4 conference games in a row, actually three league games in a row, and 4 of their last 5 overall, and 6 of their last 8. So they're in a bad funk, and yet they go to Twin last night and only lose by 2, 55-53, and that's your league leader. So
who knows, dude? I mean, we're just throwing darts at this, trying to find out who wants to be the number 1 seed. But it sets up for a fabulous tournament because any team can beat any team on the road, at home. It just doesn't matter. And so what becomes important is to get that 1 and 2 seed, because you don't want to be grinding things out if you don't have to. It's not like you're going to get a patsy in the first round. You don't. Because, I mean, you just brought up Minico. Minico could finish anywhere as the 3rd seed or the 6th seed. I mean, they could go from being a number 3 to a play-in game to get into the conference tournament. I mean, that is just how volatile these standings are in the Great Basin. So that's why that 1 and 2 seed become important, because you don't want to be playing an extra game knowing that it doesn't matter who you play, you could lose.
Right. And if Minico gets into that playing game with Burley, they've lost to Burley this year already. I could see Burley winning that play-in game, definitely. So you want to, if you're a team out there, you want to avoid the 6th seed. You want to finish 3rd, 4th, or 5th at least to buy yourself the chance at the double elimination, because you don't want to go out on a bad night, right?
Right. No, and we could have the possibility of 4 teams, I think, finishing at 6 and 6, if I'm not mistaken. And now all of a sudden we're going through massive tiebreaker scenarios,
Yeah.
So,
The other thing I would hope for if I'm a school in the Great Basin is you want Mountain Home and Wood River to be seated lower, because those are long trips to make, and you don't want to have to make that trip. So selfishly, if you're one of those Magic Valley metro area teams, you want Wood River and Mountain Home having to come to your place. You don't want to make that to Wood River, especially. Yeah. That's a long, daunting trip.
Well, it is. And you talk about venues. There are just venues that are just tough to play in for whatever reason. And I think the 2 in the Great Basin that are the toughest are Mountain Home and Wood River, because you go up to Wood River and it's It's just a different, wide open, echoey environment. And it's a whole new world up there anyway. And that's the vibe that you get. Mountain Homes got that smaller gym with the stage behind the basket. And they're just tough, weird places to play, And so, yeah, there's something to be said about where you're going too.
I still think my favorite gym to go to call a game, to cover a game, is Twin Falls High, though. The old school gym, and I don't know, it just gives me that rustic feeling, and it gets loud in there too. So
it does, and Twins got that gym that's kind of a shooter's gym too, and you can.
Yeah.
We used to walk into these gyms, and you just had a feel that this was a shooter's gym.
Shot the lights out.
Well played, Brandon. And yeah, the old Twin Bond Gymnasium's got that shooter's gym feel to it. The old Burley gym, before they built their new one, was that same kind of way. It was just, you always shot well for some reason. And basketball players and coaches know what I'm talking about when I say shooter's gym. That was just the way it was. But
yep.
You don't get that feel when you're at Mountain Home and Wood River. They're just not comfortable unless you are so used to that. And that's what makes them different. Yep,
for sure. Well, we'll keep an eye on it, certainly, as we get towards the end of the regular season. Next week on the Magic Valley Prepcast, Scott, of course, at IdahoSports.com, we'll do our annual live state tournament preview show that we do for girls basketball. We'll bring on all the broadcasters and break down each classification. And that will be the Magic Valley Prepcast next week. You and I won't do a normal one. We'll just have the preview show in its place, but you'll be on there talking about girls state basketball. So
yeah, I'm scheduled to call the 5As.
Yeah,
out at the Idaho Center.
That's going to be a fun tournament. There's a lot of good teams in that 5A classification.
Yeah, so I got to do my homework and get ready for that. But those are always fun. I love those shows.
Yep, for sure. So stay tuned for more details on that. That'll be live sometime next week on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. All right, Scott, enjoy being in 3 places at once tonight, and I guess I'll see you over in Rupert in a couple hours.
Whew, yeah, you will. I'll come up and razz you just a little bit. So I'll see you tonight at some point.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.